back to the channel. It's Lit Life with Miranda Reads, and today we're tackling mini ecosystems for pets. As you know, I'm about 6 months out from earning my PhD in biophysics, and every so often I just get bit by the science bug. At my latest sciencey obsession, creating a bioactive vivarium, aka a mini ecosystem, for my very first snake. I will be designing this with a Mexican black king snake in mind, but bioactive vivariums are highly customizable, so once you have your humidity, temperature, and other specs for your individual animal, all you need to do is a little bit of tweaking here and there, and you can use what I've done here for your own setup. Now I'm going to walk you through how to do a regular tank as well as a bioactive one, which is what I ultimately went with, along with some basic snake care for MBKs. I'm including all of the resources I used to put together my tank and where I bought my supplies down below. Step 1 is the tank. Now I was certain I was going to get a juvenile Mexican black king snake, but I wasn't sure how young my snake would be. The extra tank I had in my house is a 40-gallon tall, meaning the available living space is 36 by 12 inches on the bottom, which is large for a baby but too small for an adult. Adults need a minimum of 36 by 18, but when I eventually need to upgrade my tank, I will go for at least 4 foot by 2 foot, especially considering this species is mainly terrestrial, so they appreciate a larger floor space. Mexican black king snakes roughly double in size each year until they turn 3 years old, and considering mine was born in June, I would expect to have to upgrade my tank in about a year or so. Now the tank needs a warm side and a cool side with plenty of hides on either end. Before I decided to fully commit to a bioactive vivarium, I attached a 30-gallon tank heater, which you can see on the lower right-hand side. Now this provides belly heat for the snake, and if you have a thin enough substrate, which is normally around 2 inches or less, it's a common choice to provide heat on the warm side. When I made that swap to my bioactive setup, I used a digital thermometer to figure out if my under tank heater could make it through all the layers of substrate, and ultimately decided that it was not making a difference, so I unplugged it and went with overhead heating only. I have a dual bulb holder on an adjustable stand. So one side has my UV light bulb, which is on 24/7 and provides general heat at all times. The other is my heat and light bulb, which raises the tank's temperature during the day, and I have it on a timer, so it provides a day-night cycle of 12 hours on, 12 hours off. I highly recommend buying a digital thermometer because getting that temperature gradient is important to your snake's health. And I ended up having to do a lot of adjustment with my overhead bulbs to get that perfect temperature. The warm side should be around 85 to 90 degrees, and the cool side should be around 75 to 80. But there is some wiggle room allowed, and Mexican black king snakes are generally pretty forgiving. I also have a digital hydrometer which keeps track of the moisture in the tank. Mexican black king snakes are desert dwellers, and they can become sick if there's too much moisture, and keeping it around 60% humidity is ideal. Normally you can achieve that by just having a water bowl in the tank. If you need more humidity, you might need to mist the tank and have a larger water bowl. If you need less humidity, just have a smaller water bowl. Now if you notice, my original tank lid was a hinged lid, and I eventually swapped that out for a solid one without hinges. And that's because after buying my snake, I realized she could very easily slip through that half-inch gap at the top, and Mexican black king snakes, like most snakes, are pretty much escape artists. I also strongly recommend buying tank clips. As you can see on my upper right hand side of the tank, that's where one of the clips was. I use 2 in the front and 2 in the back, and that essentially just holds the lid attached to your tank. I know some people will weigh down their lids with bricks, but then the risk is you might have a half-escaped snake that gets crushed by the weight, which is horrifying to think of. The substrate I'm using right now is coconut mulch, but I know a lot of people use aspen or even newspaper. I added a white picket fence to my tank for 2 reasons. 1, the aesthetic, it's cute, no denying that. But 2, I have a 30-year-old box turtle with a similar setup. 3 sides are covered in the tank and 1 isn't. She always seems less stressed when there's a sticker on the glass, and that way she can see where the boundary of the tank is. Now, if you are like me and having just a regular tank setup isn't good enough, then let's continue to the bioactive aspect. I bought most of my supplies from New England Herb, and they have a wonderfully detailed intro guide that helps break down what you exactly need for a bioactive setup. Essentially, to turn my current tank into a bioactive one, I just needed to rearrange the soil a bit, get some plants and some critters. Now, a bioactive vivarium needs 4 layers. At the very bottom is the drainage layer. That's where all of the extra water goes from watering the plants. People will use BioDrain or clay balls or even plastic egg cartons, and those are cut to size. The goal is to just keep that leftover water from getting your substrate where your snake lives too damp. Then there's a screen separator, and that's a thin mesh screen that keeps your substrate separate from those clay balls. Now, the substrate is the part that you have to pay the most attention to because it needs to be nutrient enough for your plants to grow in, have enough stuff for your critters to eat, and also be good for your pet snake or whatever reptile you have on there. So what I ended up doing is a mixture of the coconut mulch from earlier and New England Herbs low moisture substrate mixture. And I went with low moisture because my snake is a desert dweller, and it also has a lot of interesting things for my bugs to eat and nutrients for my plants. In addition to the substrate, it is important to have a leaf litter layer, and that will be for the bugs and the cleanup crew of the bioactive vivarium to eat. I went with magnolia leaves from the pet store, but you can also use oak leaves or other leaves that they sell. If you want to gather your own leaves, you just have to cook it at a very low temperature for about an hour so that it dries off and kills any of the bugs from the outdoors. I added a few different houseplants. I have a spider plant on the right hand side, a hen and chicks offshoots throughout, and a snake plant on the left hand side. All 3 of them are houseplants that I've had for a while, and they're pretty chill when it comes to watering and maintenance. It's important to make sure that the plants you get will thrive in the ecosystem chosen for your snake. And finally, fair warning, we're going to add in the microfauna, aka the bugs that will process the snake waste into nutrients for the plants and chow down on the leaf litter to keep this ecosystem running. So as you can see, I have 2 different colonies. The smaller ones are called springtails, aka wood lice, which are very different from typical lice as you think of it. Also, I have a larger one, which is a species of pill bugs, aka roly-polies. Both of these species cannot climb out of the tank, they just physically are unable to, and they will spend their entire lives living beneath the surface, so you won't even see them at all. So once I had all that set up, I had the finishing touches to turn this house into a home, aka we hung up the family photos. Going from left to right, we have Agatha, my 30-year-old box turtle, we have my husband and I, and we have our dog Squamish. I waited a couple more weeks just to make sure that the humidity was fine, the temperatures were stable, and once everything survived the transplants, snake time. So today is the day. Today we are getting this snake. I've been told from the breeders / mom and pop store owners that the little snake born in, I believe, June has just started eating all frozen diet, and that they feel that she, and they told me she, is ready to go home. So I'm gonna go pick her up. I just kind of felt like it would be rude to ask to film in store, so I'll just film everything afterwards. It's been a long time waiting. I've been following this little snake on Instagram for literally months, and I'm just so excited to finally be able to take her home. Next time we talk, I will be a snake mommy. Okay, I officially have the snake, the little itty baby girl snake. I'm honestly overwhelmed right now. When I went inside the pet store, the owner actually came out to give me the snake, and he saw my little enclosure for my snake, and he loved it. He absolutely loved it. He called his wife and daughters out so they could see pictures of it too. All right, you ready to see her? Oh, she is so pretty. So Mexican black king snakes are known for their solid black coloration that can seem a little bluish under sunlight. Since she's a baby, she does have white spots on her belly / her chin, which should go away as she gets older. I named her Nagini purely because as a kid I remember reading Harry Potter and feeling so bad for Nagini because her owner was Lord Voldemort, and I just kept remembering how I wanted to take Nagini in and give her the life she deserved. Well, it happened. So at this point, I've had her for about a month. I wanted to postpone making this video just so I have some experience with her care. Not just say these things because I read them off the internet, but say them because it's what I use and how it works for me. Few things I've noticed right off the bat. One, that water bowl is way too big for a little itty bitty snake. Eventually she'll definitely grow into it, but until then, I have swapped it out for a much smaller bowl. Two, she is skittish. She does not like being out in the open, which really does make sense because she is a baby. She is prey. She is not a big predator right now. So unless I was changing her water out, I really didn't see her for the first 2 weeks, which is fine. And whenever she saw me, she would run away, which I think is hilarious. However, now that we're on week 4, I do see her out a lot more often, mostly in the mornings/evenings and sometimes at night if I walk by the tank. I did notice 3 weeks in that we had her very first shed, and I had such a proud mommy moment where I was just like, that's my little girl, look at what she did. It was awesome. So at this point, my girl is eating a frozen thawed Pinky Mouse once every 7 days. Online it says to feed them either 5 to 7 days. My girl, she's not hungry until she hits that 7th day. One thing that is probably my absolute favorite moment so far with her was last week Tuesday when I went to go feed her meal. I was opening up the tank and then all of a sudden I realized, oh my gosh, she's right there. Somehow she's managed to balance her itty bitty body on that 1/4 inch ledge of the tank, and she was just chilling there. You really just never know what your snake will get up to when you're not around. So this is why I really just want to emphasize the necessity of those snake tank clips. As she's wiggling around, you can kind of see her belly, and that has the white spots I was talking about earlier, which was really neat for me to see. So at this point, I know that me being here is stressing her out, and while I do work with handling her once a week, I don't want to throw her into a situation where she just gets freaked out. So I just left the room, I set up my camera to record, and I just wanted to see what would happen and how she would get down. And after about a half hour of evaluating the situation, she eventually just dropped. And I love it. Anyway, that is my journey with Nagini so far. I'm really excited to watch her grow. I'm so excited to even just upgrade her tank in a year. Overall, I'm honestly so ecstatic with what I've created, and I'm also just so excited to see where it goes next. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe. Have a great day, and happy reading. Bye.